Rishi Gill writes, "Hi, I've seen several of your videos reportedly to understand it better regarding the Canon M6 Mark II, the ZV-E10 from Sony. Saw one of your videos regarding the Canon R10, actually a Q&A comparison between the 90D M6 Mark II and the R10. Thanks a lot for this detailed info regarding the rolling shutter. I have a similar request regarding rolling shutter. If you can advise between the A6400 or the Canon R10, which would be good for mostly video content creation on YouTube. My concern is rolling shutter. Which one has more noticeable, as I'm going to buy either one in a day or so. I've been doing my homework for almost 4 to 6 months, seen hundreds of cameras and read their reviews, seen video samples, narrowed it down to these above mentioned 2 cameras. Kindly, if you can spare some time and advise, I would really appreciate it. Thanks, Rishi Gill." Okay, so Rishi, a couple things to just kind of put out beforehand. Just as a reminder, if you haven't already taken into consideration, you talk about buying a camera for video, which is awesome. Also keep in mind, whatever you're planning and budgeting, budget some money for, so whatever you're spending for your camera, the same amount you could expect to spend for the accessories around that. For your camera, microphone, lens, lights, any stands, tripods, things like that. So these are all things to definitely consider if you haven't budgeted for it. Definitely something to consider. Now, you don't have to buy the best, latest, and greatest right away. You can always buy used, you can buy off of eBay, but keep in mind, these are things that you definitely want that will greatly improve your video quality beyond what the camera can capture, because at the end of the day, what image you get in the camera is what you give it, and that's based on, you know, essentially everything else, the audio, the lighting, and so on. So that's item number 1. Number 2, you mentioned A6400. I would advise that you consider swapping the option of the A6400. Instead, consider a comparison between the ZV-E10 from Sony and the R10. Why not the A6400 and instead get the ZV-E10? And the reason is the ZV-E10, I've got 3 of these, and I actually passed on the A6400 for the reason specifically because the ZV-E10 is intended and designed, or rather repackaged. They took the sensor and the mechanics of everything what the A6400 is, and they made it more video friendly. They're almost identical in terms of the cameras, but the things that they actually got rid of to make it cheaper and they added to make it more video friendly was, 1, they got rid of the viewfinder. The viewfinder is more of a photography tool. Now, if you absolutely need a viewfinder, then maybe A6400 is the option to consider. But as somebody who is 90% video in terms of content creation, somebody who has worked with clients to help them develop channels over 100,000 subscribers each on more than one occasion, then I would say, from my experience, you don't need a viewfinder. In fact, what you may want to consider investing in the future, if not in the near future, is a monitor, an additional screen so you can see things better. So, and in that case, it won't matter what camera that you have, it's an accessory that you may want to consider adding on. The second thing that they did was they added active stabilization. It has the ability to capture gyroscopic data. Now, that gyro data, you can use it for active stabilization in camera, or like what I do many times is that I will not do active stabilization, but I will turn that off. I'll turn off any stabilization, and I will let it record the gyro data into the camera, so that way I can bring it into a software like Catalyst Browse or GyroFlow to stabilize it after the fact. Now, in any case, whether you're using active stabilization in camera or you're using GyroFlow or Catalyst Browse in post, there's going to be a little bit of a crop, just to keep that in mind. So that's why I prefer the ZV-E10 over the A6400. And it's newer in terms of its color science has been tweaked and updated to be more friendly towards skin tones. But if you're going to be taking advantage of this next piece, which is now getting into the comparison between the Canon R10 and the ZV-E10, the ZV-E10 has picture profiles. Now, the Canon R10 doesn't have like log based or hybrid log gamma. They just have a regular standard profile, and within that you can go into you can do small tweaks and adjustments or neutral and things like that, but it's nowhere near the versatility that you get with regards to picture profiles of like S-Log2 or S-Log3 or HLG hybrid log gamma that the Sony provides. And so With regards to flexibility, color grading, getting an extended level of dynamic range that is then compressed in a log scenario in an 8-bit format, the Sony beats out the Canon in that regard. But this is a feature that is only of value to you if you are familiar with or are most definitely looking to grow into that skill set of basic color grading. From my context, I'll tell you my camera that I started using for content creation for the scope of YouTube and whatnot is this, the Canon EOS M, the original Canon EOS M, which came out back in like 2013. I got it back in 2013. I didn't even get to unlock this camera until by unlock, I'm talking about hack it with the EOS M Magic Lantern third-party software until much later. So I used it for what it was because I didn't know about any of that stuff. All I knew was that, hey, can I put a lens on there? That was the biggest thing. And even then I rocked the kit lens for like 6 years. So that's something to definitely consider. Again, if it's something that you're not gonna venture into, you don't see yourself venturing into in the near future, then it's not something to worry about, nor is it going to be of value to you. The other major factor though in relation to the ZV-E10 and the R10 has to do with the screen, the LCD screen. Now indoors, the LCD screen of the ZV-E10 and the R10 is fine. It'll be adequate. The issue comes in bright outdoor settings. The ZV-E10 screen, essentially almost all Sony screens, even on their like really expensive cameras, that screen is essentially rendered useless. Right? This is where having an external monitor is definitely helpful, almost necessary, or some sort of shade or sunshade for your screen when you're in bright outdoor settings, or what you end up doing is you end up doing something like this, and you're just kind of like looking at the screen to block any and all bright sunlight. So whereas with the Canon R10, the Canon R10 has the screen brightness setting, and that brightness can go really bright to the point where it's like, hey, I can see it just fine bright outdoor sunny day. However, there is a downside. Screens take up battery, they take up juice, they take up power. So the brighter the screen, the more juice it's going to take. In a outdoor dynamic all day out vacationing with the family type of setting, I found that the Canon R10, I most definitely needed at least 2, ideally 3 batteries, and something to charge it with as needed. So now this is the perk of both the ZV-E10 and the R10. Both of them can be charged via a high voltage USB-C cable, something that you would use for your cell phone. Like in my case, I have a Google Pixel 6 Pro. The charger I use for that charges both the R10 and the Sony ZV-E10 just fine, and you can operate it while it's being powered via the USB-C, given that you have juice in the battery. So that's the thing to kind of keep in mind. But the R10, the battery life on the ZV-E10 tends to last a little bit longer. The ergonomics, how does it feel in the hand? For me, my personal opinion, the R10 hands down feels a lot better in the hand. So if you're going to be hand holding this bad boy, then that is something to definitely consider. If I knew I was going to be out and about hand holding this thing, I would automatically intuitively reach for the R10. Now, when I say I would, meaning I don't anymore, is because the R10, I don't personally own the R10. I had the R10 and I was borrowing it from a buddy of mine who was out of town. I had it for over a month, so that's where I got to play around with it. Now, after having it for a month and I gave it back to him, I was sorely missing it. And even to this day, I'm like, I love the way the thing feels in the hand, the way it in terms of like, even with the ZV-E10, it's got a grip and stuff. I do have confidence in the grip, but it doesn't feel good. It feels a little clunky. It's got sharp edges and whatnot. The Canon R10 is designed for the hand. That's one of the other factors. Another thing to consider between the two cameras is that do you currently own lenses? If you don't own lenses, then it doesn't really matter which way you go, because you're gonna have to build out your collection and library of lenses for the type of shooting that you do. You have native E-mount lenses for Sony, as well as native RF lenses or old EF glass that you can adapt to RF for Canon. So this is something to definitely consider. Do you have lenses? Do you not have lenses? What will it cost you? What is your lens roadmap for you personally based on the kind of shooting that you are going to be doing? Are you going to be buying simply just one lens, one like zoom lens and one low light lens, and call it a day? Like, again, this is a question that, and what those lenses are going to be, how much is that going to cost you? These are all questions you want to consider having. Going back to the original question, which had to do with rolling shutter. Apologize for taking this long to get here, but personally, I think it's a non-issue. And the reason is this. Yes, rolling shutter exists on both cameras. Depending on what mode you're shooting it in, it's going to be more pronounced than the other. So your original thing about the A6400 or the ZV-E10, they have the exact same rolling shutter specs, so to speak, between each other. So when I say with regards to what is the mode you're shooting in, so your resolution and frame rate, these are the two things that are going to determine how fast your sensor is able to do its read and the camera can do its processing and encoding and compressing to the file. All of that is determined by the setting. So if you're recording at say 4K resolution at 24 frames per second on the ZV-E10, you're going to get a sensor readout speed of about 33 milliseconds, which results in significantly noticeable rolling shutter, which will be very noticeable in a dynamic situation where if you're recording a bunch of folks playing basketball, as an example, or some people sparring or rolling in a jiu-jitsu session, or if you are in your vehicle and you're trying to record things that, you know, outside the window, like somebody else is driving, I'm assuming somebody else is driving, and you got your camera pointed out the window, like, yeah, you're gonna see like everything is slanted because of rolling shutter. This will also be prevalent in the Canon R10 if you're recording in 4K 24 frames per second, fine, like the high quality version. Even in that, you get something like if not 30, but close to like maybe 28 milliseconds. Again, it's very close, and so as a result, any dynamic movements, you're gonna notice some sort of jelloing. But you change that setting. You go to say 4K resolution, 30 frames per second. For whatever reason, the sensor readout speed is actually a little bit faster. Is it noticeably faster? I think so, because whenever I'm recording any kind of jiu-jitsu footage, and then I also process that footage further in something like Catalyst Browse, I'll notice the footage looks less jello-y. However, on the Canon R10, if you go into 4K standard, in which instead of compressing the image down, so in both these cameras, they do oversampled footage, right? So you've got your 6K and they're squeezing it down to 4K. Now, in the case of 4K standard, instead of squeezing it down, it's basically throwing away a bunch of additional information, meaning, hey, let's just pick every other pixel and then that'll bring it down to a particular resolution that fits near 4K. If it doesn't, it'll just stretch it up. So it's not going to be as sharp, but it's going to be relative. Like, what are you watching it on? Are you watching the footage on, say, a 55-inch TV? Then yeah, it might be noticeable. Are you cropping in heavily on the video, where you know, are you doing something along the lines of this and this? I'm actually zooming on the camera, but sometimes people emulate that effect on in the edit. If you're going to be doing that, then yeah, you're going to notice significant change in quality. Are you pairing it with other footage? That's going to also affect it. So all things to consider with regards to how that footage is playing out. But yeah, like the setting matters. If you go into 1080p mode in general, in both these cameras, the rolling shutter is almost non-existent. Especially, I wouldn't say it's non-existent. You go into a camera, you point the camera sideways with all the stuff, you'll still see the slanted line. That's almost impossible to avoid because you're going so fast. But again, what is the context that you're shooting in? Spending 4 to 6 months to, like, look, I get it. There's a lot of information that maybe you're learning about the technology and the craft of video, and that's fine. I would say pull the trigger, bite the bullet, get yourself any one of these cameras. They're gonna be great. They're gonna, honestly though, if you ask me, if your current knowledge set and skill set on a scale of 1 to 10 is like between a 1 and a 3, meaning you're a beginner, then the R10 will probably be a better option, because the R10 is right off the bat, if you don't know anything, is going to be easier to use. Canon has designed their hardware and the software, that's in terms of the menu system and whatnot, to be a lot more intuitive than Sony's. But if you are somebody who's already familiar with cameras, technology, and the craft of video and whatnot, at least to almost an intermediate level, then for sure get the Sony, because if you are an intermediate level or approaching that with regards to your skill and experience level, then you're gonna probably want to get into color grading and processing and editing. But then again, if you're not, then the R10 is probably a better choice. So I hope this was helpful. I know I got a little bit more rambly and ranty than most, but yeah, if you have any more further questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you soon.